So it's early May and it's still a little bit early to be planting out tender plants like tomatoes and peppers. Um, but there's still lots to do on the potager this week, and I'm just going to go over a few things that we could do with getting on with. And if you remember, a few weeks back I sowed some beetroot and some carrots, and it's time to thin them out now. These are particularly bunched up because a mole came up and messed up all my seeds, which is why they're not in a row. They're all in one big clump. So I need to thin these out, and these young leaves can actually be quite useful little salad leaves. What I'm doing is just pulling out the plants in the middle just to make space around the ones that remain. I shall not do them all just now because I can come back later and pick some baby beetroot, and leave the remainder to grow to full size. But it's important to leave enough space around each plant for them to grow so that you get a decent crop. I'm going to be doing the same with my carrots. Here they are. They germinated really well, but they're too thick in the row. So I'm just again pulling out every second or third carrot just to leave space around the ones that I've left there. If you imagine how big the carrot's going to grow, I mean they will push against each other to a certain extent, but if I've got a big clump like this one, you're never going to get carrots of a decent size. And again, I could leave them and pull a few out later as baby vegetables. I'm just trying to show you here the ones I've left behind and how far I've spaced them apart. Right next to them are some of my Japanese onions, my overwinter onions, and unfortunately the hot weather we had 2-3 weeks ago has forced them into early bolting, and I need to remove the flower stalk now, otherwise they might get a hard core inside the onion and they won't store very well. I also planted out my sweet corn, which I grew in modules, going back to the seed sowing video. These were modular sown, and they're very hardy, so I've already planted them out this week. I'm growing them in a block like this because they're wind pollinated. The bees won't come to each individual plant. It relies on the wind falling off, knocking the pollen off the male flowers onto the female flowers, which emerge from the ends of the young corn cobs. So we generally grow them in a block like that. And up at the polytunnel, I'm taking out my tender plants now to start hardening them off. And these are some tomatoes and some tender perennials. And I'm just bringing them out in the daytimes for now and putting them back in at night. And the whole process takes a couple of weeks. So next week I'll probably start leaving them out at night as long as there's no frost forecast. But you can see the wind gently blowing the leaves there, and this triggers the production of extra cellulose in the cell walls, which toughens up the cells, and this is what the hardening off process is all about. It's about toughening up the plant, ready to be exposed to all the elements, such as wind and heavy rain. It needs to thicken the deposits on the cell walls to make it harder, basically. So yeah, these want another week of hardening off before I plant them out. I planted out my rainbow chard this week also because that is hardy, that shouldn't be affected by frost, and you can see I've placed it towards the end of one of the beds because it's going to be there all winter. And what's really annoying when you want to prepare your bed for the following spring is to have a row of plants still right down the middle of the bed. So I'm going to plant my leeks next to it because they're also a winter crop, and keep them down that end of the bed.